In Yakutia, there's an old story about a woman who disappears during haymaking. People search for her. They find nothing. She's vanished. Years later, she comes back. She refuses to tell where she has been. Only when she's much older does she finally tell what happened to her. She says something carried her into the mountains, and she lived in a cave with these creatures. People in Yakutia have an old name for beings like this, a Chuchuna. The first story is about a Sakha woman named Maya. People simply called her by nickname Maya Khan. She lived in a small community in the Verkhoyansk district of Yakutia. This is one of the most remote, geographically isolated, and harsh places on Earth. And there are old stories from that part of the country about the Chuchuna. Descriptions differ. Some describe a very large human-like figure, tall, dark, long hair and long arms. Sometimes it's described as covered in hair, or fur rather. Sometimes as wearing old animal skins. The Chuchuna is also said to move very fast. Some accounts mention whistles instead of normal speech. Others say these beings can try to confuse hunters or somehow draw them away into the forest, right? So the story of Maya Khan takes place sometime around the mid-1930s. So it's midsummer, the haymaking season. People are outside cutting grass. Maya Khan is working with them like she always does. Nothing unusual is happening. Then one day, she disappears into thin air. No one sees where she goes. There's no fight, no signs of any struggle, nothing. No body, no trail, as if she just disappeared where she was just standing. People search, but they find nothing. The search stops after a few days. People have to go back to work. And keep in mind, this has been in the 1930s in the Soviet Union. The life of a person wasn't much of a value back then. A few years pass. Then Maya Khan suddenly comes back. She appears again in the same general area. She's alive, healthy, and physically fine. People recognize her. But something about her has changed. She's frightened, withdrawn, like her entire personality seems to have changed. She's no longer the same person as she used to be. Like people ask where she has been, but she won't tell anybody. She doesn't want to discuss it. And for years, right, she keeps quiet, spends time mostly alone, and soon people forget what happened to her. Again, keep in mind this is now during the World War II. People have enough to worry about it as is. Maya Khan grows older. Occasionally, after having a few drinks, she finally talks and tells what happened to her. She says she's working during haymaking when something suddenly comes towards her. Fast, a figure shaped like a man, but very large, hairy, and dark. It reaches her, grabs her, throws her over its shoulder, and runs away. It runs real fast. It doesn't struggle under her weight, even though it's running across the taiga. Maya Khan cannot follow the country around her. Wind tears past her ears. Her body rises and drops against the shoulder, carrying her. She cannot exactly say, how far they travel. Maybe a few days. Eventually they reach the mountains, and she's taken into a cave. There are two of those beings in that cave. She describes them as these hairy wild men, or the Chuchuna. Certainly not animals, but not human either. Maya Khan cannot speak the language. They do not speak to her in any language she knows. There are sounds, whistles, and gestures. But after some time living with them, she begins to understand what they want. They want a child. Maya Khan never gives details about what happens next. Soon after, she's pregnant and gives a birth to a boy. The boy is healthy and he's strong. She stays there with him in that cave. She remembers strange things about the cave. Even during winters, it was warm. She's given food. She says she never left hungry. She remembers meat from mountain sheep and deer, something she couldn't eat back at her settlement. And she survived famine in the Soviet Union. Remember that, right? The boy grows. Then one day, the two wild men communicate to her that they're leaving. They are going somewhere far to wage war against someone, maybe other wild men. She doesn't quite understand that. They say that they will have to take the boy with them, but not her, because the journey is too far and too difficult and she won't survive it. So they are going to return her back. Maya Khan does not want to leave her son, but it doesn't matter. There's nothing she could do about it. So the Chuchuna puts something over her head. She's lifted again, thrown over the shoulder, then the running starts again. The same speed, the same wind in her ears. She cannot see where they're going. Then the Chuchuna stops and lets her go. She's back near the place she was taken from a few years ago. The boy is gone with the creatures. She never sees him again. Maya Khan never marries. She lives the rest of her life alone. She says very little about those missing years. She doesn't want to speak about it. She does say, though, that the beings treated her well and fed her while she was with them. But nobody ever learns where that cave was. Nobody learns where the Chuchuna went. And nobody knows what happened to the boy.